us today for today's town hall. And the goal of today and the purpose of having our town hall is in lieu of the fact that we weren't able to have a state of the city address and of course related to COVID-19. It's been something surreal and something that has impacted our community. And this is something that we're continuing to work through. And the hope is that we will get through this global pandemic, and we're going to continue to move forward and strive and work towards getting through this pandemic. So one of the things that we're going to do today is we're going to do a slide show, and we have multiple of the directors here today that are the ones that are instrumental in moving the city forward along with their staff. So today is about highlighting the work, tremendous work that our staff and directors have been doing. And once we conclude with that, then I will open it up to questions from the public, and I will be answering any and all questions related to city and all city business or any other questions that you might have. And we do have some of the directors with us in case we need to answer more or get into more specifics about individual departments. We'll be able to do so. And again, in spite of this, in dealing with this global pandemic, the directors and city staff have been doing a tremendous job, and they work tirelessly to provide services for our community. And I cannot say enough about the work that our staff and city personnel do on a day in, day out basis. And the city continues to grow, and our staff must continue to grow as well, continuing with resources. But that is something that we can start talking about too for next year in budget planning and as we move our city forward. So beginning with some of the city there's so much progress where we're at today as far as our city. When you're looking at our finances, it's incredible the point where we're at today. In fact, when it comes to our fiduciary responsibilities that the city commission, Mr. Perez, Mr. Cantu, and all the staff here at the city have done as far as maintaining effective and efficient ways to spend our dollars, our tax dollars. And they've done a tremendous job. And we can't say enough about where we're at. At this point, we are in the best financial position in the history of Rio Grande City. We are a Standard & Poor's rating. We have an A, and an A is always a wonderful thing to be at, right? But our finances, when it comes to audits and bond ratings, we are rated as an A municipality, which has saved us over $1.8 million in the course of the transactions that we were able to move forward as a city with our refinancing that we just passed. Our city commission did a tremendous job with that. Of course, our financial department, and it's a savings to Rio Grande City residents. And we were able to obtain a 2.51% interest rate when we refinanced as compared where we were at before. So it's a savings of $1.8 million to our taxpayers. And with those, we'll be able to provide many more projects. So you're going to start seeing very soon more development and services here in Rio Grande City. In fact, we are looking at multiple projects that will be highlighted very soon. As you see some of the aerial views, Rio Grande City continues to grow and prosper. And when it comes to how many permits we have issued out, and here you have a slight video of what our staff And if you haven't had the opportunity to see our staff at work, it is the work that they do and the time and effort that they put. And as you can see there, they're out there day in, day out, and they're doing this for our constituency. They're working very hard to make sure that services are provided and that people are able to get their services on a prompt basis. I know it is a challenge sometimes, and let us recognize too that our city is continuing to grow. And with that, we recognize that there are many projects that we still need to do. There are deficiencies that we need to correct. But a city this large, there will be some areas that need some attention, and that is a given. It is a given that we are going to have areas that need improvement, and that's why we plan on a yearly basis, and not just yearly. We forecast for the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 and 20 years, and further. Why? Because it's important that we plan ahead. Keep in mind that our resources are limited, so we need to make sure that the planning is critical, so that way the next year we're able to find different projects. Keep in mind, we have 35 miles of streets here in Rio Grande City. And those 35 miles of streets, you might have 10 that we can pave this year, another 10 the following, because we're going to continue to have more and more streets. So keep that in mind. However, there's a process where we allocate resources to paving several streets this year, and then the following, or providing lights this year, and then the next year in another area. So these are things that we do and require a lot of planning. There is no way that we could do it all in one stop. There's absolutely no way. We just simply do not have all the financial resources to do that. And that's why planning is critical. And the staff, our employees here in Rio Grande City have done a tremendous job to make that happen. And every year there are new projects that we're working on. There's new maintenance in other areas, and continue to turn it around. So and those are things, by the way, where our constituency can at any point in time visit with our departments to make sure that what their concerns are, so we can address them as we move forward and plan for the future. Here we have infrastructure. For example, we have multiple lift stations that we've currently, actually, we already completed the majority of these projects. And what these lift stations are, and you're talking about millions of dollars in infrastructure in order to sustain and support any and all future development. And this type of infrastructure, I should say, it's 3 pumps. So we've actually increased the capacity by threefold. So it's not just a single pump anymore, it's 3 pumps in 1 unit. And we have 6 lift stations that we've already upgraded and some replaced completely. So this capacity has allowed us to be able to be set for the next 20 years, next 15 to 20 years. And that is something that, as future planning and progress and development and commercial coming into our area, we have the infrastructure laid out to make sure that all that growth is feasible here in Rio Grande City, whether it's residential, whether it's commercial. And you'll see some of these other photographs. So kudos to Mr. Cruz from our water department, should say public utilities department. He and his staff have done a tremendous job. In fact, coming here today for this town hall, I just saw one of our crews out there, and they're working hard to make sure that they're repairing some of these areas. And it's after 5 o'clock, after 6, 7, odd hours at night. So they're available. So thank you to our water department and the crews that are out there working to provide services for our community. So Mr. Cruz, thank you to your staff. Thank you to yourself for making this happen and for laying the foundation for all our infrastructure, because without infrastructure, we would not be in the position that we are in today, capable of being able to sustain any and all future development. And that's one of the reasons that we have been able to attract all these new developments to Rio Grande City, is because we have the infrastructure to sustain them. Here in the last 2016, we had 54% water loss, and we're now at 15%. Now that is a huge savings to our taxpayers. And how was this possible is, again, working on the infrastructure, the digital water meters, been working on many of the units that are out there. We have pipes that are 40, 50-year-old that we are working on to replace. And we're talking about millions of dollars that have to go into all this infrastructure. But these are, again, are from 40, 50 years ago. But we need to continue to address all those needs so we can have and lay and have all the foundation for future, whether it's 20, 30, 40 years, or forecasted for the next 20 or several decades. So this has been huge as far as decreasing our water loss, and it's been tremendous. So thank you again to our Public Utilities Department for making that possible, and Mr. Cruz. Now, this is a major project that we'll be working on in the next couple of years. And this is our expansion of our water treatment plant. We are at a position where it's a necessity to upgrade our plant, and we will. And in fact, we received a $7 million loan for expansion of the water treatment plant, and $2 million of that will be, it's going to be addressed, or should I say, waived at some point. So this is a 10 to 15 year plan as far as being able to sustain the development from here on, because right now we can treat 1.5 million gallons of water per day. However, with this new expansion, we'll be able to treat up to 3 million gallons of water per day, which in essence is going to sustain us for the next 15 years, possibly 20, depending on how much the growth is. And this is something essential. It is critical. We must proceed with this project. There's new technologies out there that will be able to retrofit our current plant and be able to increase the capacity of treatment. So, and this is another major project that we're working on, and this will be happening in the next year or two. So, Mr. Cruz, I can't say enough about the PUD department and what the staff has done and continues to do. Oh, by the way, not to mention if you've seen all the water tanks out there too, we're at this point maintaining all our water tanks. We're upgrading water tanks, and you will see also, of course, painting those water tanks out there. And this is something that's been forthcoming. It's been in the planning for some time. So, and investing again, millions of dollars in our PUD areas. Why? Because this will sustain us for the next 20, 30, 40 years. So major projects in our systems, water treatment, water delivery. We're able to deliver 12 million gallons of water per day. Right now, we're not even at that capacity. So, because typically in the summers, we're looking at I believe it's almost 6 million, if at all, is 6 million gallons of water per day, typically during the summer months. But we could deliver up to 12 million. So we could actually duplicate the city and grow 100% and still be able to sustain our city at this point. So we're in a very good position as far as delivery of water, but now we have to work on the actual treatment of it. So that's kudos to the PUD department. So moving on that, as far as the infrastructure, of course, our highways and byways, the realignment 755 has been huge. I know it took a few years to get there, but if you ever take a stroll down 755, it is a beautiful view is coming into Rio Grande City, and there will be all the other phases of it, which is continuing to 3167, and then from there to 649, and then from there moving on to Loma Blanca, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So now, keep in mind that these projects sometimes take years. This one here, 755, had been many years in the in the planning. However, we were finally able to get that done. And that is an effort, a collaboration with TxDOT, with multiple entities, the Stark Camargo Bridge, Stark County Industrial Foundation, of course, the city, and Mr. Sam Bale, multiple individuals that have been part of this major project, and that we'll continue to see. Again, this is something that we are going to see in our lifetime, going on to Hospital Road, and then from there to 649. Now, keep in mind that these projects require a lot of money, and we are going to see them as moving forward, particularly infrastructure in border communities. So we'll be tapping into funds related to border communities, specifically port of entry. So the infrastructure going into our port of entry. Here, one of the developments here, by the way, at our, should we say, our port of entry, Mr. Vale, and this port of entry here, you're looking at $1 billion of trade that goes through our bridge. So that is $1 billion in trade, or should I say in commerce and trade that goes through our bridge. That's not even counting the traffic, private traffic that goes through, citizenry, of course. So we are tied to the port of entry. We are, in fact, there's going to be a cold storage facility very soon in that area. So it's going to continue to grow. We need to move that traffic out of here, moving on to the other areas that they're going to. Some individuals, of course, are staying here. But nonetheless, this is a mobility project. It's in progress, and there's major planning that has been going on for some time, and you are seeing the results of this labor already for some time. The fruits of the labor, as they say. Short and long term, master drainage plan. It is, at this point, there are multiple areas that have had issues with flooding, and I'm talking about flooding way before this, we had incorporated, of course. So these are areas that need attention. So as we're planning for this master drainage plan that encompasses the entire city, and we're talking about a huge watershed. So, and I've said this before, if you are any resident in Rio Grande City that has ever had issues with drainage in their area, and if you haven't contacted us, or we've never been out there for any reason, please let us know as we plan for this master drainage plan, because it's imperative that we hit all the areas that need attention. So, which, by the way, you are able to do it online under citizens request. You can go down to the menu bar and then go through the citizens request and submit your concern, or call us here at City Hall. And the whole point of that is it's imperative that we know what areas are being impacted. The last rains that we've had, when there was some flooding, we had crews surveying the city, and they were addressing, and we even took some aerial photographs to look at what areas need more attention and what is happening to those areas. So that way we can continue to address them moving forward. Now, we're looking at long-term plans. We're looking at short-term plans as well. So the reason we want to identify those areas is in case that there's a way to address it for the short term, then we will do that. However, in some of these projects, you're talking about millions of dollars, and it takes some time to get to the point where we can address it as far as long-term plan. So, but we need to have this. So let us know if you've ever had any issues with drainage, and if so, we need to know that. So as we're moving forward with this master drainage plan, we're able to tag along and address the areas that need attention to move the water out of there. Keep in mind that I know 83 is one of the huge areas that we are working through and with TxDOT to address some of the drainage issues that 83 has been impacted with. And those are things that are in the planning. Again, some of this issues have been here for some time, some more recent, but we need to address them all. Nonetheless, we're going to address it. But let us know. Moving on to the developments, that's one of the things that, by the way, as we were mentioning, Rio Grande City continues to grow, and it's just incredible the growth that we've experienced in the last several years. Our mainstream home, by the way, these were some of the tabletops that we had to have the conversation about where do we want the city to grow. Here we had affordable housing as well. And here's of course, the Rio Grande village that will be here soon, and multiple other areas. We've, the Rio Grande village, or should I say just Rio Grande village, it's an 89-acre commercial development. The first phase of it, as far as moving dirt, we've completed that portion. You will start seeing buildings being erected in the next several weeks. And the job creation there, you're looking at 500 to 700 jobs that will be created, $10 million in new annual salaries, 1.4 million in ad valorem taxes or property taxes, and then 1.1 million in sales taxes annually. It is a development that will transform our region for generations to come, and it's going to continue to. There are several phases, so keep that in mind. There will be retail, restaurants, hospitality, light industrial. So it is not just 89 acres. In reality, it's going to be more than that as we plan for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road. And we are going to have several, at least a couple of hotels there. Of course, the restaurants, the retail, and we're looking to this major project. Now, keep in mind that this is with new developments also come the assistance for other businesses here, and that's why we have EDC programs that work with our current businesses. That if you ever, for example, the Main Street program, and Main Street program has several grants that we offer. Whether it's a facade grant, we offer the upgrade, especially in certain buildings that we want to be upgraded. So keep in mind that there are programs that we offer. So all you have to do is visit with our EDC office with Ms. Dalinda Guillen, which is our director for EDC, and her staff, wonderful individuals that day in, time again, they've done a tremendous job in bringing all these different entities, along with partnering with, again, the Stark County Industrial Foundation, and together they've been able to attract all these new businesses to Rio Grande City, which when you're looking at, for example, Regency Integrated Health Services, it's a 120-bed skilled nursing and transitional care center. They're going to be employing 252 employees. And that's a $10.9 million investment. But what's so critical here is 252 new jobs here in Rio Grande City as part of this new investment. And these are things that our EDC looks at, considers is who's coming in, how can we attract more jobs, and what are the jobs that can be here. And again, you're talking about a nursing home facility that will have some minimum wage positions, but also some professional salaries there too. And 252 people or employees, wonderful addition to Rio Grande City. And when you have people working here, then of course they spend their money here. They go shopping here, they go to eat here, restaurants and whatnot. Of course, once we get through this global pandemic as in the next several months, which I strongly believe that we will get through this, and we all must continue to do our part. We all need to do our part to continue to stop the spread or flatten the curve of COVID-19, and by and large people have, which here's the perfect opportunity to mention our business community. Our business community have done a tremendous job in addressing COVID-19 because they truly have gone above and beyond the minimum standards set forth by the state. And we have reached out to so many businesses, and businesses have reached out to us where they themselves commit to going above and beyond to keep their customers safe, their employees safe, and the community at large safe. So thank you for doing that to our business community.
Oh God, hello, are we gonna be able to ask questions?
When I'm done, as soon as I'm done with the presentation, yes, there will be questions, yes. So we're hitting
Thank
already.
you so much.
As soon as I'm done with these slides, ma'am, yes, we are gonna have a time for questions. So to everybody, hold on to the questions. We will be answering those questions. So please just bear with us and we will answer questions. So continuing with this, so all this development, thank you to our business community for being there and providing all these life-saving protocols that continue to keep our community safe. So continuing with the developments, this is of course some of the footage of the dirt being distributed or accumulated, should I say, for lack of a better term. But continuing to grow, our business community is doing a tremendous job. Our planning department, the permits, issuing out many permits for residential and commercial, and millions of dollars in new investments here in Rio Grande City that you're able to see. So if you just take a drive here in Rio Grande City, you will notice the progress that is happening thanks to the staff and employees here at City Hall. And I can't stress that enough. You're talking about 208 residential permits, 112 permits for commercial, and over $24 million in commercial and residential development in the last year. And that is huge. In spite of, by the way, in spite of managing this global pandemic, the work here at City Hall does not end, and they continue to work hard. So kudos to all the staff here at City Hall and employees for continuing to work and keeping the mind of our city forward as we deal and handle and manage this global pandemic. Moving on to some of the other areas, which, by the way, just to mention our Main Street program, it has been nationally recognized in the last 3 years, and they have been nationally recognized. So we have a Main Street program that they truly have gone above and beyond to improve the Main Street area. And as far as some of the buildings and working with some of the owners to upgrade some of those buildings, and they continue to do that. So, and to say that we have a downtown area, a Main Street program that is nationally recognized, and they have for the 3 consecutive years. Same thing with our library, for example, our small library. Ms. Foltz and her staff, they do a tremendous job. And in fact, they've been recognized again as a top 10% library in the state of Texas. So Ms. Foltz and her staff, the programs that they offer, in spite of having small resources, or in some cases not enough, but they're still able to be recognized at the state level for the work that they do. So Ms. Foltz and her staff, thank you. You certainly are an inspiration in what you have done with so little. It's incredible and can't say enough about that. Now, those are things that as we move forward in our city, those are areas that we are keeping an eye on and see if there are ways to expand them in the future as well. So just to reiterate some of these points, we have received numerous grants here at the city as well because of our audits and completing of audits. So, and we have with us, by the way, Ms. Fire Chief Muniz and Police Chief Castillo. No, we recently, by the way, just yesterday afternoon, the governor's office reached out and they awarded us another $90,000 as a supplemental to the fire and police services related to COVID-19. So I want to thank the Governor Abbott, and his office for granting us an additional $90,000 as part of the COVID-19 related relief. So reaching out to that, thank you for that opportunity to be able to provide some of these resources to the needed areas, and plus the CARES Act. And that is another funding source that we have tapped into. So to Congressman Cuellar, I want to thank him as well. And of course, Representative Guillen for giving us those funneling some of those resources down to the needy areas or the areas that need relief as far as COVID-19. So just to recap, just to summarize, there's much work that has been done and continue to do. And today was, again, just a precursor to what we're doing here in Rio Grande City and the different departments. And we will continue to have some of these to highlight the different departments. As I mentioned prior to some people coming on, we were not able to host a State of the City address due to COVID-19. And what we're doing, and we will be doing for the next several weeks, is to highlight different departments, and that way the public is aware of what Rio Grande City and the different departments are continuing to do in spite of this global pandemic. And these departments, all of the departments here in Rio Grande City work for you. They continue to serve our constituency, and they are ready, willing, and able to serve our community. And they do a tremendous job. So kudos to all the departments, all the employees for the work that you do. And I cannot say enough and thank you enough for the work that you do. So to all our staff, simply thank you. Thank you for the work that you do. So at this point, I will be answering questions. So the way we're going to do this is in a manner, we want to make sure we answer all the questions that we can answer. Now, we have some of our department directors as well here to answer some of the more specific questions that I might not be able to answer related to the service here in Rio Grande City or the different departments. So please bear with us. If for some reason we do not have an answer, please give us your information. We will get you an answer. Now, by and large, we're gonna do our best to answer your questions and make sure that you receive the latest updated information from any of the departments that we have here in Rio Grande City, because at the end, we want to serve our constituency, and they have. So thank you to our staff. So Ms. Custer, how would you like to do this? Is there a first question that we need to answer, or how do we, to make sure that it's done in a manner to get to everybody that has a question?
I guess we can start with, whoever has a question, and then they can ask
Okay,
one.
there was someone. Could you identify yourself, please, and then ask your question, and make sure that I might ask you to repeat the question just to make sure that I have it correct. So go ahead and start.
Yes, good evening. My name is Norma Linda Lopez. I am a Rio Grande City resident. I'm a retired military soldier, and I'm a retired federal government employee. I'm a lifelong resident of Rio Grande City. Okay. I had asked this question the last town hall, and I don't think my question was answered. We talked about the Happy Paws helping take the dogs out of the dog kennel and all that, but that doesn't control the pet population. Everybody knows that if you research the breeding and all that of domesticated animals, each unaltered female or male can produce 67,000 dogs. 67,000. So rescuing our way to cleaning up the city from all the animal cruelty, all of the unwanted dogs that are suffering on the street, and it makes us look bad because I have a house in Austin, I have a house in San Antonio. So when I go there, I don't see dogs running amok everywhere. Austin has strict rules. If you're going to own a dog, a domesticated dog who cannot fend for himself, you must spay and neuter that dog, period. You cannot have a dog as a slave chained outside. You get fined for that. And they don't just like the animal control goes and gives them a fine, and then they say, oh, no, give me a vote, and I'll take the ticket off. That doesn't go like that. So my question is, when or how can the city start updating the city ordinances as they relate to owning domesticated animals, as far as keeping them in a fenced yard and spaying and neutering the animals, microchipping them? Because if you drive around the city and early in the morning, you see a lot of dogs looking for food out on the streets, and it's not their fault. It's the fault of the owners or whoever bred that dog and let the puppies go in the street because I don't want them anymore. That's irresponsible, and it makes the city look bad, because people who come and visit our city, if you come in on 755 right in front of Border Town, there's some thugs there that live there. They're constantly changing dogs. I don't know what they're doing with them, but they have them chained to trees there. And when tourists come into Rio Grande, if you come from a bigger city, San Antonio, Austin, or another state, what you're seeing is, oh, look at that. They abuse animals here. And it makes the city look bad. My question is, when is the city going to look at the ordinance that we have as it relates to owning pets? And when is the city going to help residents to spay and neuter their dogs so that it's not a problem to the city and there's not animals suffering all over town and nobody's doing anything?
Well, let's start there. In fact, we are going to be upgrading our kennels. So starting just there.
Well, that's not going to control the pet
Hold
population.
on, let me finish.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with that. I'm going to give you an answer. So let's start there. Now, at this point, you asked your question.
Mm-hmm.
The question that you have. So that's the question that you have. Any other question besides that one?
No, just that when are we going to provide spay neuter for residents so that we can control the pet population?
Okay, so that's the question. All right. All right, so thank you, Ms. Lopez.
You're welcome,
Now,
sir.
so starting with that, and in fact, I'm glad we have Ms. Beas and Mr. Milan that work with our code enforcement and animal control. So I'll just start off with the first question, which we are going to be upgrading our kennels to address some of the dogs that are, you get a call, by the way, and that's something that I encourage people to do. When you see those dogs out there, when you notice that something is happening, of course, contact City Hall. We have a code enforcement office, which they do go out there and visit. And in some cases, of course, when you're looking at, is there any type of criminality there too, or any potential charges, they work with our police department. So starting off, that's one of the things that it's in the planning phases. We only have 10 kennels at this time. We're gonna double the size of that to be able to, when we do acquire more dogs, let's say because of circumstances, then at that point, we're able to hold on to them until we try to see if, one, is there an owner? Two, did something happen? Three, is there anything that we need to do? And of course, working with agencies such as we mentioned Happy Paws. And in fact, we have not had to euthanize any of the animals for, I want to say, about a year. Why? Because of entities that come in and work with the city to try to provide homes for those animals. Now, Ms. Beas, to continue with the question, I know we've had multiple clinics that, for example, have done whether it's rabies shots, for example, at a lower cost. But when it comes to spay and neutering, Ms. Beas, do we have any other information on that? What else are we doing there to answer Ms. Lopez's question about programs related to neutering, and so on. Are you available, Ms. Baez?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So yes, it is conversations that I've had in the past with Ms. Lopez, with understanding her passion for a spay and neuter program, something also that the commission has looked for in the past. With the new facility coming on board, we have added a 15 by 20 space where we will contract with the vet to come and do the spay and neuter there at the facility. It is hard sometimes for families to take their dogs to the valley. And I know that Ms. Lopez has done also a lot of that on her own, with her own money, which we thank. And so once having that facility in place, we will now have it. We're also putting together a budget to present to you all, to council, to subsidize some of the costs associated. We've had meetings with Happy Paws, since they are an established nonprofit, and identified those grants along with Ms. Ashley Custer. She's also very much involved, to find the monies to supplement the budget that hopefully we'll be able to get. Right now, we don't have the facilities. It is very hard. And so, you know, we talked about voucher programs to issue out to the families to take, but the issue remains the same, that it's going to be a distance to go and take them. And there's certain recovery time for some of the animals. But it is something that we hope to very soon, within the next budget year, to be able to have available to the citizens, Mayor. And
that's part of the upgrading of the kennels as well.
Yes, sir. It is a 15 by 20 space within the expansion. Besides the additional kennels, it'll have a recovery area, and it's basically a clinic with all the stainless steel, you know, equipment that needs to be there. We definitely want to make it to a veterans, a veterinarian's standard, where, you know, people who take their pets will know that they're being taken care of in a sanitary environment.
At that point, that's going to help. So you will be seeing that at City Commission at some point, as far as your proposal. Of course, the upgrade of the kennels, that will happen. It's already been budgeted for, so that are moving forward on that, and the additional programs that come with it. It is being proposed, as Ms. Baez is mentioning, and that is something that when it is brought through City Council, at that point, Ms. Lopez, I encourage you to be part of the public forum, so you can express your opinion at that time and support of.
Well, I want to interrupt you for a second, Mr. Mayor, because I had talked to Ms. Baez as an example. I have a neighbor here, and she's an educated woman. She's got a master's degree. She had dead puppies in her yard. She had like 30 dogs, okay? She goes and dumps the dogs. She gets 30 dogs, and I told her, I have $300 saved for you so that I can go spay your females. She only had 3 females at the time, and I'm talking about 8 months ago. She never got the dog for me, and I still have the $300 for her, and she won't spay her female. She keeps having litter after litter after litter, and it's not right. It's not fair to the animals, you know, that the city will not come and put a stop to it. You know what? You cannot be producing animals to go dump them in a back road so that they die on their own or eaten by coyotes. That's not, educated people don't do that. You spay your female and you stop the production. And she has failed to do that. Ms. Bea and I have talked about this before, right, Ms. Bea?
Ms. Lopez, have you witnessed this person dumping those dogs?
I know she has, because she lives next. I haven't witnessed this, but I know that that's what she does. Her workers used to go dump them because they were female. She didn't want them. Educated people don't do that. I'm not pressing charges on her. I'm simply telling the city we need to take a tougher stand on this and stop the production of domesticated animals.
And that is something that we can do our part, but we also need that help of individuals too, that if they witness something like this, absolutely we need to take action And that is something
Well,
that,
well, let's go no further. I have a vet report for a dog here on my street, and there's only a few houses where this dog was poisoned with antifreeze. I have the report. That dog was sent to Texas A&M. A rescue paid for him to go to Texas A&M, and somebody here poisoned him with antifreeze, sir. And I can send you the videos of how much that dog had to suffer to die. We don't need to be doing that to animals. If you don't, let me finish. If you don't like animals, simply don't engage with them, but you don't have to be poisoning them. And I have the report. I'm going to go file a police report,
Please
and then
do
I'm going to
so.
follow up. Yes, I'm going to go
please
file.
absolutely
I-
do so. If you
I had
witness
already
or
filed a
something,
police report.
please.
I had filed a police report on a lady who had 40 dogs, 40 puppies. Some of them were tiny puppies, mangy and all this. They took 18, and they were mangy outside. And I got her on video saying, oh, they find cover. Where do they sleep? The ones you have outside. Oh, how can they find a place to sleep when it's 30 degrees outside in the winter? Mr. Victor Canales said there was not enough evidence
Mayor.
to charge her with animal
Okay.
cruelty. And I gave him the video.
Mr. Perez, you have something to add?
Mayor. Yeah, Ms. Lopez, I would like to visit with you personally. And if you can help me go gather whatever the city of Austin or any other city has an ordinance to help us alleviate the problem, let's work together on it.
Sure. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Ms. Lopez, for those questions. Let's continuing. What other questions have come up, Ms. Custer? Thank you, Ms. Lopez, by the way.
You're welcome.
I
Ms.
think
Cup-
another question that I had seen, first, I guess, maybe, is there anyone else that's in this meeting that would like to ask a question before I jump into some of the questions that I
Okay.
saw online?
At this time, we'll open it up to anyone else that would like to ask a question. Please do so at this time. Just identify yourself and you can go ahead and ask your question. Oh, let's go with the questions that you have, Ms. Custer.
I guess a big one that I had seen was a lot of discussion about brush and bulk pickup. And so this is a question that we've gotten quite a bit over the past, I guess you could say even several months, as far as when do they come to pick up the brush? What's the process? Is that something that you'd be able to share with us as far as the scheduling goes?
Yes, and in fact, I'll turn it over to Mr. Barrera as well. But first, just to know that we just acquired a second brush truck. And so we have 2 trucks going around town picking up brush. And we do have a program as well. We do bulk pickup. Now, on every last week of the month, for those of you that are interested in taking some of your bulky items to our 14 acres, I've done it myself whenever don't want to wait around and I just want to take it myself. I do go to the 14 acres the last week of the month and dump my bulky items. However, if you're not able to do so, of course, Mr. Hector Barrera, by the way, is our Director for Public Works. And Mr. Barrera, could you go ahead and just briefly go over the schedule that we have for brush pickup and bulky items and what we're doing as well for that?
Yes, good afternoon, Mayor.
Can you turn on your webcam so they can see who you are too, Mr. Barrera, in case I ever want to go visit with you?
Yes, well, my office is at 203 West Water Street, there in Rio Grande City. And we do have a schedule to pick up bulky items and brush. Sometimes we do pick up brush and maybe sometimes residents don't wait that long. Like we pick up brush and by 2 or 3 days they throw again and they
Okay,
want.
but what's the schedule, Mr. Barrera? What's the schedule? What part of town is from this week to this week? And
Like-
this, go ahead.
For residents to the west side, from San Antonio Street to the west side, which is the first 2 weeks of the month, toward Hospital Road.
So from San Antonio
The first 2 weeks.
west, it's the first 2 weeks of the month. From San Antonio east is the second 2 weeks of the month.
Right. And then the last 2 weeks of the month, it's gonna be from San Antonio Street all the way to like City Hall, El Arroyo subdivision, the 2 subdivisions that we have in La Loma. That's gonna be the last 2 weeks.
So again, just to reiterate that point, from San Antonio west is the first 2 weeks of the month. From San Antonio east, it's the second 2 weeks of the month. And for bulky items, the last week of the month, you're also able to drop those off at the 14 acres. What about bulky items, Mr. Barrera? How often do we?
Bulky items, we also do it sometimes by call, but we don't, because sometimes we don't have like that much of a bulky item. But sometimes people like throw them in the alley, and that's you need to put them like in front of your curbside, like in the alley. It's very hard for us to take our trucks and our tractors and do the maintenance on the alley.
And just to reiterate, go ahead.
Make sure that don't mix your shrubs or your bulky items with construction material like restrooms, wood, tile, sheet rock. They mix everything, and sometimes it's harder for us to pick up like everything mixed, because the landfill, they're strict and we have to take everything separate.
So the key is to not mix it, have brush with brush, and not mix it along with anything else. So brush is one pile in of itself. And of course, leaves, you want them bagged. I know we bag the leaves as well, and then we can go ahead and pick them up.
Yes, well, the leaves and grass clippings, they should be in bags, because we cannot, like the truck cannot pick the leaves.
Right.
They get it all over the place. They need to be in bags also.
To reiterate the point, clippings, grass clippings, leaves, it must be in bags. And then of course the brush, and not mix those items, so that way it's easier for the trucks to get out there and pick them up.
Right.
Now,
Correct.
just, and I reiterate that point to the public, is we do have a citizen's request in our website. Just go click to the bottom portion of the web page, and you'll see an icon there that reads citizen's request. Click on it, and you're able to make these requests or concerns or complaints through that function. Or if you need some type of any concerns or a pickup, or you want information, you can also get that information through.
We have a list of unacceptable items. You can get it there at City Hall or at our office. There's a lot of things that we don't throw, which like car parts, batteries, cardboard boxes, liquid materials. Those are things that that the city is not responsible for throwing that.
Now, all that information, is it on the, Mr. Perez, is that information on the city's webpage? Or that information, where can somebody just take and read all that information on the?
I can get Hector to provide it to Miss Ashley. We'll post it on the website.
We're also, Mayor, planning to send out a flyer. That's actually something I'm already working with Public Works on, putting a flyer together that can go out with the next bill for their utilities.
Okay. Let's do that. That way everybody's informed, and make sure that it's easy accessible for people to know the schedules. And that way they can plan accordingly and do their maintenance of their yards on a scheduled basis, based of course on the city's plan to and pick up. So if we can do that, makes it easier for them for our public to be able to plan accordingly as well.
Yes, and I would like to add, if like the trucks pass through your subdivision, can you please wait at least 2 or 3 weeks to get your brush out again? But it's only once a month the truck pass through your subdivision. Sometimes we pass, and by 2 or 3 days, there's another pile there again. So that's why sometimes people think that we don't pass through there.
Well, and that's the thing that we need to be clear is that we need to make sure that the schedule is clear so that way everybody is aware when their neighborhood or their area is going to be taken care of, because it might not be that they're doing it intentionally. And I don't think or believe that it's intentional. It's just simply that they might not be aware of the schedule. So we can make it more accessible, more or easier for people to know the schedule, whether, as you mentioned, Ms. Custer, Mr. Perez, whether it's on the water bill or somewhere easy and accessible, they can, I don't know, maybe have some stickers that we can send out and they can put it somewhere in their calendar. Just think of ideas. How would it be easier for people to know what the schedule is? Let's make it easier on the public to know the schedule, so that way, again, place items unintentionally and not realize that it's not yet the time to pick up in that area. So Mr. Perez, if we can work on something like that, again, just to make it more accessible and easier to identify, and whether it's again putting it on social media, whether it's putting it on the water bill or sending it out. Let's see what we can come up as far as a campaign, so that way everybody's aware of when and how or timelines that pickups are done. Any other questions there, Miss? Thank you, Mr.
Yes,
Rob.
sir.
Thank you, Mayor.
So Mayor, Pastor Bob has a question, so I'm gonna let
Okay.
him go.
Hello, Pastor Bob. Good night.
I don't think he can, his mic doesn't work, but his question was, are there any new youth activities or business planned for the near future?
Any what again?
If there's any new youth activities or business planned for the near future.
And youth as in
Youth.
YOUTH, okay. Well, in fact, we are in the planning phases of a new Boys and Girls Club. And in fact, we just approved, City Commission approved the building. So we will be looking in the next several months to start the construction of a Boys and Girls Club, which will have youth activities. It'll likely be somewhere close to the park. And that's one of the things that we've been working on, and it is going to happen. It was already allocated, it's been funded, and we will have a new Boys and Girls Club in addition to the Parks and Rec. And by the way, Mr. Eguia Frank Eguia with Parks and Rec, he and his staff, they've done a tremendous job. I know right now, because of COVID-19, we haven't been able to roll out many of the youth programs that we had in place. And we're not going to anytime soon, considering the spread and where we're at right now. So that's going to be for a much later date. But the plans are to get back to the point where we will continue to have youth activities at the Parks and Rec with the Boys and Girls Club. And it's going to be great. Why? Because you're going to have youth activities and continuing with the football, the basketball, the soccer, volleyball, as well as a facility where individuals can go and spend time with. And we'll have computers there as well and other games and be able to socialize. And of course, everyone is looking forward to the day when we've put COVID-19 behind us and people can get back to socializing, particularly the young ones. I know my son, in fact, was having a conversation with him, and he's ready to get back. However, we as adults, we as parents know that we have to be careful, particularly during this time of this global pandemic. But I do have hope, and I do believe that we're going to get back to that day. And the Boys and Girls Club is a project, a plan, an activity that is going to be beneficial to thousands of our young ones as the years go by, because Boys and Girls Clubs and the programs that they have are incredible for the development, overall development of our young ones. So thank you, Pastor Bob, for bringing that up. And yes, to answer your question, we are looking forward to continuing to expand our youth programs, and the Boys and Girls Club is going to be a huge part of the lives of our young ones, the future leaders of tomorrow. So we need to ensure that we're guiding them and providing the resources and programs to teach them the skills necessary for future development and being the next generation and leaders. So, Mr. Eguia, by the way, thank you for the work that you do, sir. I know right now we've through this global pandemic, we haven't been able to roll out all the programs that you had scheduled. And I know it hurts you to not be able to have those programs. And you and your staff have done a tremendous job with the youth and Parks and Rec program that we've offered in the last couple of years. So thank you for the work that you're doing to your staff. Anyone
So,
else
Mayor,
on that would like to ask a question, please feel free to ask. And at this point, is any and all questions?
I see some questions popping up on Facebook. I think maybe some people are having some trouble jumping into the meeting.
Okay.
So I have a question from Annette Bazan. She's asking, people have been asking for trash bins and they claim they don't have any. We have had to pay for trash pickup to go through it ourselves. All the empty lots in the city limits are full of brush. What happened to the orders that we cannot have thick brush on empty lots?
Okay, so the question is not having trash bins? And that's one of the questions, right? I'm not sure
Yeah,
I
That's
understand
one
the
of
question.
the questions is, I believe that people are struggling to get a hold of trash bins. I guess, people are being told that there are not any available. And they're also asking about empty lots within city limits that are full of brush. They're
Well-
asking why there's, why it's been allowed that thick brush has been allowed to grow on some of these empty lots within city limits.
Well, let's start off with our code enforcement. They survey Rio Grande City and they do tag. And by the way, part of the process to address some of these weedy lots, for example, is we have to go through a process of tagging them first and then calling or contacting those individuals and owners, and then go through the process of notifying them that their lots are in non-compliance. And then from there is provide the opportunity for them to correct the issue. And when that happens, if, by the way, if there are any weedy lots that anybody has a concern of, please contact our code enforcement, and they're the ones that get out there. I know, for example, they get out there often and they do tag the lots and make sure that that people take care of them. However, there are some lots that take a little bit longer than others. Why? Because it's hard to contact individuals. Sometimes you have owners and you're trying to track them down, people that don't live here. And we have, by the way, in some cases, contracted to take care of some of these lots, and then we proceed with putting a fine, or a lien on those properties should there ever be sold. However, Mr. Milan, I know you're on the line. Anything else that you would like to add to code enforcement in addressing weedy lots and any of the areas or concerns of lots that are not being taken care of?
Good evening, Mayor.
Mr. Milan.
Councilman, the public. in general. I'd just like to add, if there's a concern or a complaint about a lot, like you've said before, please feel free to contact one of the code enforcement officers. And you're right, there is, sometimes it works with a simple letter or red tag. Sometimes we have to follow up with a certified letter. Sometimes we have to issue citations, because obviously some people are very willing to cooperate and clean their properties, and some people are not. Like you said, some property owners have unfortunately passed away. Some of them are all over the planet. We have properties with 40, 50 owners, so like I said, all over the world and the country. And we had to, unfortunately, we had to notify each one of the owners. And due to family issues or problems, they are unwilling to take care of the property, which at the end, it ends up at an auction by either county or school district due to taxes. So that is the story why behind some of these lots are not being taken care of. However, we're trying our best, and if there's an issue where we have an urgent situation right next to a school or a church, we can definitely take matters to the next level. Just let us know, send us an email, or contact one of our agents.
And to reiterate that point, it is a process. The process is that it's got to go through the tagging, to contact people, give them the opportunity to take corrective action. And then it escalates depending on whether the corrective action was taken or not. Now, if there are some of these lots that are continued, then of course code enforcement will follow up and escalate how they proceed with these type of citations. And that is something that they do. But if you see it, I know that I've seen, in fact, most recently, several lots along 83 that were tagged, and soon, a few days after that, they were already cleaned up. So it is effective, but in those cases where it takes a little bit longer, and there are some properties, they take a little bit longer to take corrective action because of some of these owners don't live here. They do not live in Rio Grande City. So now, we've gotten to the point too where there are some that we are going to take corrective action ourselves, but we don't do. I'm not going to say that we do that for every lot, because then wouldn't be cost effective. It'd just be too much. So what we do is take steps first, and in some cases, depending on if it's a hazard situation or is it contributing to a potential hazard, then those we take other measures depending on whether it's there's a stake or potential injury or potential hazardous situation for some of those lots. Now, the second part of that is trash bins. That is something that you need to address with Grande Garbage. Grande Garbage is our provider here in Rio Grande City. And now, please just contact their office. I do not know what you're referring to, not having bins. But that is something that is, as the entity, now, you can, by the way, visit with Mr. Alberto Perez, he is our city manager, and then he can work on your behalf to potentially address some of these things through the service provider, which in this case is Grande Garbage. I have not heard that they had run out of bins. However, if that's the case, and you're not getting service, we can act as an intermediary and visit with Grande Garbage on your behalf. So I invite you, Ms. Basan, to contact Mr. Perez. He can call from his office and he can put you on conference call and contact Grande Garbage on your behalf if that is something that you would like to do. Just contact Mr. Perez and he can, again, be an intermediary to address any potential concerns related to not receiving that trash bin. Now, again, that is something that we've done it for other businesses where we have acted as intermediaries, and we can certainly do that in this case for trash service as well. So please visit with Mr. Perez. and he can go ahead and start that process for you and find out what a potential solution would be for that. Any other questions, Ms. Custer?
I
Yes,
have
we-
another,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I have another question.
Okay.
I want to know, I know that we are currently paying for 2 city secretaries
Sure.
at the cost of $80,000 a year each. How long are we going to continue paying 2 city secretaries?
Well, let's start with the fact that it's not at 80,000 each. I don't know where you got that information, but that's
Well,
incorrect.
50,000, 80,000, it's still
Well,
over.
it's not 80,000 each, so let's start.
Okay.
And now when it comes to situations such as there's litigation involved. And with that, the city commission will decide how we're going to moving forward with that situation. I cannot at this point tell you all the specifics, but what I can say is that is something that the city commission is considering, and we will be taking action in the next several months based on the litigation aspect of it. And I cannot get into all the specifics because obviously it involves, there's some legalities. So to be fair to individuals in this, that is something that we are looking at, and as a city commission, we'll decide how do we move forward with the advice of our attorneys, because anytime there's legal matters, these are things that we take very seriously in consultation with our attorney or city attorney, and then we can move forward. So to answer your question, there are many parts to that situation that I cannot divulge at this point, and I'm not willing to, because obviously those are things that need to be addressed because it's personnel matters. However, I can guarantee you that as a city commission, we look at all the factors, we weigh a situation and make the best decision, but we do it in a way that's going to be conducive to avoid any future potential litigation through the consultation of an attorney. So with that, I cannot say any more regarding to the specifics, but going back to it, no, I don't know where that information is coming from that we're paying 80,000 to, that's not true.
Well, it's
But-
between 50 and 80, sir. So, I mean, I
Well,
could
it's
look at
not-
the salaries. It's
Again,
public
let's
information,
not,
so it
let's
doesn't
not
matter.
pass out misinformation. There is misinformation there. That
Okay, sir, the question was, until when are we gonna be paying 2 city secretaries? That's the
Well,
question, whether it's
the
80,000.
question is until the city commission decides based on
We're
the advice
wasting
of council.
taxpayer dollars just like we did with the trash lawsuit.
So is there another question regarding that?
I have another question
Go
coming in through Mr. Jimmy Cruz
Go ahead.
on Facebook. He is wondering, why is it that his brush is not being picked up since he pays his water bill to Rio Water Supply? He says that he is on city limits and pays taxes.
So he says that he is in city limits.
Yes, he is in city limits, pays city taxes, but his water bill is with Rio Water Supply, and he says his brush is not being picked up.
Well, Mr. Perez, has that ever come up to you, or has that ever been addressed? If there's an individual who, well, one, is he paying brush pickup? So he is, based on the question, he is paying trash pickup and brush. Because if he,
Mayor, this is the first time I hear about this. I'll have to investigate if I can get the address of the gentleman so we can verify.
okay. So
That is
Mr.
something I'm working on at the moment. I did ask, but I'm still waiting on a response.
So Mr.
Hector,
Cruz,
do you have any-
please. Go ahead.
Hector, do you have anything else to add?
Yes, if I can say something, I think that address is from towards Tractor Supply. He doesn't pay brush. he pays the water bill with Rio Water Supply, so they have to they haven't made an arrangement to make that pickup brush pickup.
We'll look into it, Mr. Perez, if you can get a hold of Mr. Cruz and find out the specifics of it. And that way we can address it. And,
Mayor, I'm here. I'm sorry. I didn't hear the question was referred to me. What's the question?
No. This had to do with trash pickup. And
Oh,
brush.
okay.
So no, it was not. So it's Mr. Perez. If he can just get to Mr. Cruz's, well, Cruz as in Jimmy Cruz, not.
Oh, okay. I heard. Okay, Cruz. Sorry.
Yes, if you can get a hold of that gentleman, Mr. Perez, and that way we
Yes, sir.
can figure out what we need to do or how, what the situation is.
Duly noted.
Thank you, Mr. Perez.
We have another question in
Go ahead.
from Patsy Ramirez.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor, for taking the time to do this. Any plans on possibly bringing a Goodwill store to our area? I'm sure that it would be a help to many. Thank you.
I'm glad you asked that question, Ms. Ramirez. In fact, 2 weeks ago, I actually stopped at one of the stores there in McAllen to talk to the manager and to see what would it take to bring one of those out here. And that is something that we can definitely look at because it is a need here in Rio Grande City. And many of these stores would be ideal for Rio Grande City because of the need that it provides and the service to others. I know that sometimes many individuals here will go to McAllen to drop off some of their items to the Goodwill stores over there. And because of course there's part of that tax breaks and whatnot, but that is something that I would love to see here in Rio Grande City. And in fact, I will be visiting with our EDC and see if there's any type of incentives to attract potential or begin the conversation, because part of that is to have a conversation with them and provide our financials, provide the city's demographics, provide the how we can attract a nonprofit, for example, or any other business for that matter. And those are things that we definitely would benefit, or that Rio Grande City would benefit from. And it's, like I said, having the conversation. And like I said, I started that conversation. There was some interest there, and we will be visiting in the near future to see if there's a way to attract a Goodwill or one of these other nonprofits that could benefit our city, and also for our residents to provide some of these items that they no longer have a need for, that others might have. And that would be the perfect place to do that and merge the needs of some with the opportunity of others to give to the community. But thank you for asking, and yes, that is something that Rio Grande City needs, and see what we can do as a commission, as an EDC board to make that happen. Thank you for having concerns of others and being empathic for the sake of others.
Mayor, we have another question from
Okay.
Sylvia Garza. It has been months that I have been told the water manager to pick up my trash bin since I no longer live in Rio Grande. It has fallen on deaf ears. Their only concern is that I continue paying for services. I do not live there anymore. Pick up the trash bin and stop charging me. I feel I need to get reimbursed for all these months. And so basically they say they do not need to be charged sewage, the brush charge, nor the trash charge, only water to water the grass.
Ashley, this is Steven. I'm going to ask, can you give me that information? Obviously, we're not at the office right now and can't log into the system, but if you can give me that information, we can look into it personally tomorrow and talk directly with this individual and see what's going on with their account.
Okay. Because she's just
Thank you.
asking, they're claiming that there needs to be permission to pick up the trash bin, so.
Well, we'll look into the account and see what's going on and then address it from there.
Perfect. And so Mr. Jimmy Cruz also responded with his address. So I don't know if you all want to address that individually now that we have the property address. But we can also
Provide it to
discuss.
Mr. Bettis later, Ms. Custer, and give Mr. Bettis all that information so he can follow up tomorrow. And if Mr. Cruz, can you follow up with Ms. Garza's concern?
Yes, sir.
See what we need to do, or we can act as intermediary there too, as far as any trash bins and whatnot.
Yeah.
We can.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms.
And
Custer?
so, yes, Mayor, I know there was a question that was posed a little bit earlier. I haven't seen it come up. It was actually asked when we had originally posted the town hall. They were asking a little bit about drainage. And so, just a little bit about flooding on residential streets. I don't know if you want to mention just, maybe some
Yes.
of the resources or things that have recently come into the city as far as assisting some of those residents and what our plans are to help them with that.
Well, when it comes to drainage, if you are, contact City Hall for sure. Let's start there. If you had issues with drainage, make sure that you let us know, because when we had those rains some time ago, we had crews that went out to survey the different neighborhoods and see which ones were impacted by any type of flooding. And the whole point of that is to be part of this master drainage plan to address the needs, short-term needs, as well as the long-term goals of this plan. So if you had issues and there was flooding in your street, for example, we need to address it and see what it was or what it is that we can do to mitigate that potential flooding or that flooding at all. I know that there were some neighborhoods that were impacted that are not inside city limits. However, if you are in one of those neighborhoods that are outside city limits, and of course, that's part of when we're working with the county and see what we can do to help out. But it's being, of course, directed through the county. But inside city limits, please let us know, because we need to make sure that we identify those problem areas so we can start addressing them if we haven't already done so. I know we were out there, we were cleaning up all the culverts and drainage areas and drainage ponds to make sure that water is being able to be diverted away from streets. However, it's imperative that we continue to address all areas around the city. I know we've identified several neighborhoods that we need to go back and do some leveling and some work in some of those areas because of easements that were easements that are there, but we need to go back and reclaim some of those easements in order to address flooding. But the critical part here is to identify them. So I encourage you is, one, provide us your information so that we can contact you tomorrow so we can meet with you, and that way we can start looking at your specific area and what are some of the needs that we can address there as far as future flooding. Because the whole point of this master drainage plan is to make sure that we mitigate any potential or future flooding. And it will be a short-term solution, but also a long-term. Right now, we're looking at some of the areas that we can identify today, and if there's something we can do at minimal cost, then we'll do. But if it's something that's going to take massive planning and massive amounts of money to address, then those, of course, are going to be taken more on a long-term basis. But it all depends on what the needs are of that particular neighborhood. So, but the first is identify them. So let us know.
Mayor,
Go ahead.
Mayor, I also want to update you. I had a meeting today with Judge Vera and Commissioner Loy Garza. So I am working closely with them. In fact, I have a meeting to go out to the neighborhoods that are close to the outer edges of the Grande city on the west side with Commissioner Garza to make sure that we are working jointly in coming up not only with a plan for the city, but also in conjunction with the county.
Perfect. And thank you for taking the lead on that, Mr. Perez, because as you said, it is imperative that we work with the county in addressing it from a watershed that obviously affects not just Rio Grande City, but the surrounding communities, and particularly many of the areas that are county or related to the county. So thank you for taking that opportunity, sir, and addressing it and taking point on that. So let's continue working. So let's identify all those areas. So please, if you're having those issues, please contact Mr. Perez or send us your information so we can reach out to you and start addressing some of those, because we do have this plan that we're working on, and we want to make sure that we address all areas that need some long-term and short-term solutions.
Mayor, we have another couple questions coming in
Go ahead.
from a Julie Olivares and Renee Marilu Chavez. They're
Okay.
asking, the water pressure keeps going down or is off in the afternoons in El Royo, or I guess in the back of Rio Tires every day. Why and what can be done about this?
Mayor, if I can answer that question.
Okay.
We had a booster pump that went down. We actually are in the process of getting repaired. It's actually supposed to be installed and repaired this week. That booster pump was actually what helps bring the pressure to that area. We are not only getting that repaired, but after talking with the city manager, we're going to purchase an additional pump to have available. That's what we've kind of been doing this last year and a half that I've been on board. We've kind of replaced old pumps that have affected the pressure throughout the city. And in addition to that, we're trying to be prepared and proactive in purchasing additional pumps to have as backups in case these situations arise. Also, we had a meeting yesterday with our engineers, and we are looking at a couple different options. Mayor, I'm sure you're aware that we're looking at obviously bringing back up to life the old water plant, which will create additional pressure and capacity so that we can have water throughout the city. And in addition to, with our engineers, we have some plans that we're going to be partnering up with neighboring water companies so that we're able to provide adequate pressure to these homes throughout the city. So there's a couple different things that we're working on. We literally had a meeting as late as yesterday with our engineers, and we are working to make sure that these issues are addressed. I understand it's a concern that's been affecting the city for many years now, but slowly, little by little, we're trying to address each of these issues. And this water pressure issue, hopefully within the next 6 months, we will have some remedies to be able to fix this issue.
Ray, can you reach out to Ms. Custer, if you can give us that information, so Mr. Cruz can also reach out to them, and then as we're upgrading these booster pumps, just to check and make sure that the water pressure in those residences are up to specs. But just to do some follow-up so we can get their information, and once we take care of those booster pumps and once we address some of it, that way we can go back and look at it, just to ensure that the water the water pressure is up to specs.
Absolutely. No
Mayor,
problem.
may I add something more?
Go ahead.
Mayor, I just want to make sure that our residents call in if they continue to have issues so that we're aware of it. Not to stop calling, keep calling City Hall. Let us know if the pressure does not get better.
And also, of course, the citizens request to make sure that we have it documented, because that only assists us with once we have something documented or once recorded, then we know and we have it for the record that what it is that's coming in and are we taking care of those needs. And it's only to ensure accountability for all of us as well, and also to make sure that we're getting back to the residents that are having these concerns. So please contact us, make us a call, go through the citizens request, but it's help us with this And as Mr. Cruz was mentioning, we are upgrading some of these booster pumps because we know that water pressure is in some areas is being impacted more than others. But once we take corrective action, then you will see relief in those areas. Plus, the upgrade of the old water plant will assist. So that's also part of our major budget planning that we have or should I say monies that we just allocated by our city commission through upgrade our old water plant. And that's only going to assist in producing more, one, capacity, but also pressure to the different areas of Rio Grande City. And thank you for bringing that up, Mr. Cruz, that we're moving on all those booster pumps.
Mayor, and also just like you said, one of the things I want to tie into is a lot of these storage tanks that were, I guess, for lack of a better term, kind of left uninspected and for many years not brought up to par. You know, the commission has given us the authority and allowed us to be able to get all these tanks rehabbed. The Garcia Street tank is the most recent one that we actually will be having on the agenda for this upcoming council meeting to get approved. And I know that was an issue that many residents brought up a couple of weeks ago about the Garcia tank being abandoned and needing to get revamped. And that is one of the tanks that we're going to be approaching this fall to get done. We had the Hidalgo tank that was redone. We had the 1.5 million tank that's right there at where the old water plant is. Those were just brought up to code. Those were in violations with TCEQ. So all those tanks have since been brought back up to code. They're working. And once we get this old water plant going, the plan is to be able to get water into these tanks so that we can help with the issues that we're having as far as pressure goes. So there's a lot of things that are being done behind the scenes, and I know some of the citizens may not see them directly. It's not like a road. When the road's paved, you know it's been done. You know the work's been done. A lot of these things that are being done are being done behind the scenes. But I encourage any citizen that has, like Mr. Perez said, any citizen that has a concern about the pressure, please call us, because what we're doing is we're creating work orders, and we're creating a log and history of all these issues, so that when we have to go back and defend the argument for funding or whatever the issue may be, we have all that backup for us. So I encourage the citizens to keep calling, placing those work orders so that we can address those issues.
And to reiterate that point is that we are working on all our tanks to rehab them and upgrading them. And that's only going to be something that's going to help with all the water pressure and delivery of our needs of our community. So, but as Mr. Cruz mentioned, let us know. We are working on all our tanks, by the way, and that is something that our city commission committed to, is laying the infrastructure, especially our water needs, because a city without the proper delivery system of water, there is no way they're going to be able to prosper and grow. And that is something that our commission has worked hard for and has worked hard on, is to address our water needs for the next 20, 30 years. And part of that is the digital meters, the lift stations, all the infrastructure underground, plus the water tanks. And it's only, one, reducing the water loss, and two, upgrading the water pressure, but a sustained water pressure. So let us know, again, to the public, we are working on all this, booster pumps, water tanks, and all the infrastructure. The old water plant, we're going to be bringing it up to spec again. And these are things that we are aware. There are many needs that we have, but we're working on those needs. And you will see it and notice a difference, considerable difference in water pressure, and minimize, as I mentioned, the water loss, and upgrading all these systems. So thank you for your patience, and let us know, please. Mr. Cruz is available, Mr. Perez is available, and all the staff here is available to make sure that we are meeting the needs of our community. So, but thank you for those questions. And thank you, Mr. Cruz, for bringing that up. Ms. Custer, what other questions do we have? Or anyone else that wanted to jump in and ask?
Yes, so the Starr County Industrial Foundation wanted to thank you for putting on this town hall, Mayor. They also are asking if you could remind residents that replying to the census and getting an accurate count of our population allows for more recruitment of new businesses and services for our community and existing businesses. Could you expand a little bit more on that?
Absolutely, and thank you, the Starr County Industrial Foundation. I know we work very closely and collaboratively with them, our EDC, and thank you all, Starr County Industrial Foundation, for being here and supporting the needs of Rio Grande City and certainly the entire county. But yes, census, we are still going through the census. We are still at, I believe it was 43% response rate. And census is critical. It is something that our community needs. So if you, to the public, if you haven't done your census as of yet, I urge you to please do your census. It is important. This is something that our community, by the way, will benefit from, because these monies that we apply for, grant monies, you're talking about $675 billion that are distributed annually, and it's all based on census counts. So if we're undercounted, then for sure our community is going to be losing. And these are monies that we can lay on infrastructure, on water needs, on urgent care, on nutrition centers, better hospitals, better schools. And I cannot stress enough that our responses are critical, because these are monies that are ours based on our counts. But unfortunately, and this is something, by the way, in 2010, Rio Grande City's response rate was 52%. So what does that mean? That only 52% of our population was counted, or somewhere about there, plus or minus a few. But the point is that that's unacceptable. We have to have a better response rate than 52%. Right now we were at, I want to say it was 43%, somewhere around there, but that's not good enough. So I urge the public, we must count ourselves. All of us count. I know the county and all the municipalities, the city of La Grulla, Roma, Escobares, Rio Grande City, the entire county, we are all counting that everyone gets accounted for. And keep in mind that we have many needs, and these are needs that can be met if we get accounted for. So these are monies that we can benefit from, that you can benefit from, that our children will benefit from. Because keep in mind that the numbers that we get here in 2020 are set for the next 10 years. The next 10 years. So the monies that would be coming our way if we get counted, and all of us get counted, that means better systems, better schools, better services for our communities for years to come. So thank you, Starr County Industrial Foundation, for reminding me as well, and reminding the public that this is our civic duty. You know, this is something that all we have to do. It only takes about 5 minutes to do. You can do it online. You can do it by phone. You can do it also through the mail. So, and it's all free. I mean, you just have to count yourselves and your family. And bear in mind, they're not going to ask you any citizenship questions. They're simply going to, how many people live in your house? And then if you leave it about 10 questions or so, and you just send it out. And again, you can do this by phone as well, but let's all get counted. Our cities, our county are counting on us to do this. So please, I urge you, let's do this. Let's beat the rates that we had back in 2010. It is doable. We can do this. So thank you, Starr County Industrial Foundation, for that reminder, and for your service, by the way, and collaboration. Any other questions, Ms. Custer, or anyone that's on that would like to jump in? Please feel free to do so.
I know this is a question that I guess I had also seen pop up quite a bit as far as, sometimes you see overgrown lots, you see tires, illegal dumping. What is it that citizens can do as far as if they see things like this? And obviously, of course, it's unsightly, but the city works really well as far as partnering with the community. So what can citizens do if they see something like that? Who can they report that to? And what's the process in which that is handled?
First of all, thank you for bringing that up. That is ever so important to address this as a community, and we do need the community's help in addressing illegal dumping. It does occur. It does affect drainage in some areas. When we clean out some of the drains, we see all kinds of unsightly items and items that unfortunately cause some of the flooding, whether it's mattresses or tires. And it's unfortunate that there are some individuals that do this, and it is illegal dumping, and you can be cited for that. So you can certainly contact City Hall. If you want to get involved, absolutely. In fact, we purchased some cameras in some of the areas where there were high traffic illegal dumping. We have some cameras out there where there are high accuracy cameras, and they can identify license plates. And in fact, we've been able to cite individuals and bring them to our municipal court because of this illegal dumping. But as a citizen, definitely that's something that how much you want to get involved is absolutely, and we would welcome it. And one of those would be if you have any video, for example, if your house has cameras and you can share some of that video with us, absolutely, we would welcome to see it. If you have any other recording device, but again, do not get involved. Of course, we don't want anybody to be affected by that. It can be done anonymously as well, but you can contact our City Hall. I know Mr. Gilbert Milan, who's our code enforcement or director. Mr. Milan, he also does planning, of course. Anything else that you would like to add as far as what I just said regarding illegal dumping and what people can do in addition to what I just mentioned?
Absolutely, Mayor. Just like to add that you're right. People there, our eyes, they can help us. A lot of times, a lot of these illegal dumpings happen obviously overnight, on weekends. Obviously, they try to look for the smallest opportunity when nobody's watching per se. But every bit of help, that people can give us, like you said, they can remain anonymous. Obviously, license plates, pictures, videos. A lot of times, people dump, and obviously, by the time people get smarter, and there's no evidence. Sometimes you find all the way from social security numbers to addresses, phone numbers, etc. That's an easy way to find people. However, like you said, we need help. Obviously, there's differences. There's illegal dumping. There's theft of service. Also, sometimes the constituent decides to unload all his trash into somebody else's trash bin. That wouldn't be illegal dumping, but that is theft of service. Obviously, you're filling somebody else's receptacle. So again, we need all y'all's help. We investigate each and every case. And at the end, obviously, when we cannot find, any further evidence, we end up, contracting somebody or getting the help from our public works fellows and pick this unsightly trash. But like I said, any help is welcome, and definitely they don't have to disclose their information.
Is there a number that can call you directly, Mr. Milan, or how would you?
Yes, sir. They can give us a call here at the office at 956-488-8728. If not, there's my email at the webpage, the city webpage at gmilan@cityofrgc.com, and we will definitely we'll attend the case individually.
And that's something that we do need help with, because there are individuals that unfortunately make it a problem for others by dumping illegally, and there's no need for that. By the way, residents of Rio Grande City, if you have tires, those can be taken to the 4 acres, over at 14 acres, Eisenhower. We did buy a tire shredder, so we are able to accept 4 tires per resident. Is that correct, Mr. Barrera? It's 4 tires per resident during the last week of the month when we have the citywide cleanup at the end of the month, and it's 4 tires per residence. Is that correct, Mr. Barrera?
Yes, that's correct. It's 4 tires per resident. Make sure that they don't have the steel wheel on it, and it doesn't have to be a tractor tire. It's only like a regular car tire.
So regular car tires, you bring them in, it's 4 per resident. For those that, again, are getting rid of tires that don't need to, if you're a resident, you can bring them to 14 acres the last week of every month, and we can take them. Again, it's free of charge at that point if you're a resident of Rio Grande City.
Yes, we don't accept like tractor tires or
Right.
tandem truck tires. Those are too big to be shredded.
Right, so it's car tires, truck tires, regular vehicles, not any other type of larger commercial or tractors or those kinds of things. So
Correct.
thank you, Mr. Barrera.
Thank you, Mayor.
Another question, Ms. Custer?
Mayor, we have a question, another one from Pastor Bob. He is asking, sorry, I'm trying to pull it up here. What are some ways the community can step up and be more involved in the progress of our city? How can we best help our city?
Oh, great. It's an excellent question. In fact, we have so many different commissions and boards and different organizations or groups that are part of we welcome individuals that are willing to volunteer the time. I encourage you, for the public that wants to do something here at City as far as volunteer in any of our boards or commissions or different groups that we have, advisory groups or committees, contact Mr. Perez. Let him know that you're willing to volunteer and what exactly capacity that you're willing to volunteer for. And those are ways that you can get involved. Obviously, there are so many different groups out there. You have the Rotaries, you have, of course, the library. There's a women's club, library, garden clubs. There's so many different clubs and organizations that if you want to be part of those, that's another way to help out the city. But if you want to be part within groups and city, absolutely, we always welcome the help. And it's a matter of sitting down with, and Mr. Perez would be the ideal individual, and he can certainly direct those individuals and see what capacity that they are able and willing to help out. And for the progress of our city, I know we have, for example, the museum, the board for the museum. We have a Main Street program. We have the there's a historical commission. You have, of course, planning and zoning. There's so many different groups and committees that we certainly get advice from, because they're advisory boards in many cases, and we get that information as city commissioners, so that way when we're moving forward, we can address it. So absolutely, Pastor Bob, if there are individuals, please direct them our way, and that is something that we can see how we can utilize individuals that are willing to volunteer their time and effort for the progress of Rio Grande City. And we always welcome those volunteers and organizations. I know, for example, the psychology club Mr. Saravia and the Psychology Club here at South Texas College. They always been available and willing to help out with many of our events here in Rio Grande City. The ROTC from Rio Grande City High School has always helped us out. Also, some of the other schools as well outside city limits have helped us out. Different groups from La Grulla as well. I know we've had some assistance also from some of the groups from Roma. And the whole point is that when we're able to help out our community, whether it's at a Stark County function or a city function, the help is always, at this point, we always welcome the help. Why? Because we have so many events going on that if you can assist us, even if it's one day, even if it's a few hours, we're willing to accept that help. So thank you for bringing it up. But let's start. Do you have anything else to add to that, Mr. Perez?
No, I welcome any volunteers anytime. They can reach out to me, leave me a message if I'm not in the office, and I'm look forward to them helping us out.
Thank you, Mr. Perez. Ms. Custer, any other questions?
It appears that those are all the questions that I have received as of now.
Okay. Well, if there are any other questions, please feel free to send them our way, and then we can certainly reach out to you. That's one of the reasons our directors are always available to assist, and their staff are always available to assist and look into situations. But we do ask for your help. If there's something going on that needs attention, let us know. Obviously, the best way to address matters is to identify them. And once we know that something's going on, then we'll proceed, whether it's water loss, whether it's issues with yards or animal control or situations or any others that we need assistance with. Please contact us. Our directors are always available to assist with that. And I cannot say enough about our directors and all our staff here at Rio Grande City. They do a tremendous job, and they continue to serve our community. And it's only more noticeable simply right now more than ever in dealing with this global pandemic, and at the same time trying to service the needs of many during a crisis. Keep in mind that we as a city also, we had a skeleton crew there for a while. So some of the work accumulated, whether it was yards, whether it was situations that we needed to take care of. But once that individuals rotated, it was more work for them too, because there were some skeleton crews or people not coming into City Hall. So keep in mind that it has affected operations to some degree here at City Hall too. But nonetheless, they're more than willing to pick up and do the work. So thank you to all our staff. Thank you for being available, and for today, for answering those questions and reaching out to the public. And that's one of the reasons too that I wanted to have our directors as well on, is so that people can reach out and know who our and they already know the majority of our directors. However, it's always good to continue to allow that availability, that open door policy, that they're here to assist, and they have, and they're wonderful to work with. So please contact them for any of the issues or needs or any other questions that you might have moving forward here today. And as I mentioned, I know we couldn't talk about all the different departments today. There are, as I mentioned, we have so many departments that have accomplished so much, and we just cannot talk about all of them in one town hall. However, part of this was to answer your questions. So, I mean, at this point, are there any other questions? Anyone who wants to jump in, here's the opportunity to jump in and ask your question and see how we can address any of your concerns. Anyone, Ms. Custer?
We may possibly be having another question come in. I'm just waiting for a response here on Facebook. So It hasn't come in yet, but like I said, I'm waiting for a response.
Well, as we're waiting, I know we have Chief Muñiz and Chief Castillo. Chief Muñiz, anything that you would like to add in reference to global pandemic that we're dealing with, or any other matters that we're looking into as far as our fire department, Chief?
Well, no, obviously the pandemic is getting high. The numbers are going high. I just, as a public, just to be careful what you all do, in public, use your face covering, social distancing. We are keeping abreast of everything that's going on with the state and the United States as well. So all I can say is just, be cautious of your surroundings as far as, social distancing. You don't know who you can come in contact with. Just be vigilant. That's basically what I can say. Stay safe.
Thank you, Chief. And what do you think of those $90,000 that we just received from the Office of the Governor, sir? Are we looking forward to some of those monies?
Yes, that's definitely good for supplies. Correct.
Absolutely, absolutely. So again, thank you to the Governor's Office for sending those funds and allocating more resources to Rio Grande City. Chief Castillo, anything else that you would like to add, sir?
Hello.
Hello, Chief. We can hear you. Anything you would like to add while we're waiting for the question? Another question.
No, Mayor, that we're here. We're still continuing to do our patrols. Our patrols see less people at night. 10:30, 12:30. We don't have that many people on the road, and I think that's the community doing their part in what we're all trying to accomplish, which is less cases of COVID and us getting to normality somehow. So, and I know I've said this before, but we all can do it together, and hopefully this will trickle down and we'll get back on track.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And by the way, we did get some vehicles for police. I know that by the way, Chief Muñiz, I'm sure that you're looking forward to our new fire truck that we'll be getting here very soon. Obviously, of a new fire truck that's available or able to reach multiple level buildings. And fire equipment is extremely expensive, and we're looking at the latest and greatest new fire truck that will be accessible and available to reach multiple level buildings or multi-level buildings. Anything you would like to add to that, to this new much needed equipment?
Yes, no, I'm real grateful for this opportunity to get brand new trucks. As a matter of fact, talking to Mr. Perez, we were able to negotiate 2 trucks in there with the same price. So we're going to be getting a much needed pumper as well. As our trucks are getting older, the ones we have, it's good to have a couple of brand new trucks, top of the line trucks heading our way. Within maybe about 10 months from now, we hopefully can start receiving them.
Excellent. Of course, the need.
The need is always there.
Exactly. The need is there. We know that we have multiple needs here in Rio Grande City when it comes to fire and police protection and code enforcement, and all these entities working together, all these departments working together to address the needs of Rio Grande City, and first responders, fire and police getting out there. Thank you for the work that you all do. I know it's not easy, particularly responding to certain areas. And we have to continue that support and being safe out there, Chief Muñiz, Chief Castillo. As one of the nightmare scenarios is to not have, whether it's COVID-19 related, is lose some of our officers as a result of COVID-19 related or being out for a few weeks as a result of being infected or being positive, should I say. And because not having the officers out there would be something drastic. I know you all have already come up with plan B and plan C should that happen, but thank you for having those available resources to ensure that our city remains protected at all possible scenarios moving forward with dealing with this global pandemic. So thank you for that. Ms. Custer, I know there was a question coming up. That'll be is that the last time for
It
today?
seemed like there was a question coming up from Ms. Bazan, but it hasn't come in yet. So I'll follow up with her after the town hall and just see if she has any additional concerns that maybe she wants addressed.
Well, we started at 5:30. It's already 7:30, and time flies when you're answering questions, and many of these important questions, and all of them to address the needs of our community. We are here, as I mentioned. The staff is here. Feel free to our constituency. Feel free to contact City Hall, contact the departments, go through our webpage as far as citizens request, and let's make sure that if you have a concern that we're able to address it and bring it to our attention, and we will contact you. We will follow up to make sure that those needs are being addressed and see what type of corrective action we can take to address the residents of Rio Grande City. With that being said, again, just a reminder, let's do the census. Let's stay safe. Continue with COVID-19 protocols, the sanitizing, the face coverings, the social distancing, the minimizing social gatherings. It is critical that we minimize, again, any social gathering or social gathering as it is. COVID-19, our numbers continue to rise, and it's important that we minimize and flatten this curve and minimize the spread. So let's all continue to work on this. It is doable. We've been there before. We were successful before. We can again. And it's a matter of all of us doing our part. So please do your part. We all need to do our part in fighting this global pandemic. So with that being said, thank you, all the department heads, and again to the staff. And with that, I also like to thank our City Commission, City Commissioner Ray Ramirez, City Commissioner Dave Chachi Jones, City Commissioner Langasa III, and City Commissioner Flor Flores. They have been instrumental in leading our city forward and being in the position that we're in today. I can't say enough about where we're at today. Rio Grande City is prosperous. Rio Grande City is in an excellent financial position in spite of all the issues, in spite of the global pandemic, and in spite of the effects that it has had on our city economically and the human toll on our community as well. And we owe this to everyone that's making this possible. So with that, thank you so much. And we will see you again. We will have other opportunities for other departments as well to highlight their successes. And they have had many successes. Once again, thank you so much and have a good night. Appreciate it. Thank you everyone for being here today.